Good evening. Welcome to the continuation of the Tuesday, October 28th Elmhurst Board of Education meeting. The board has been in closed session since 6:30 to discuss student discipline, negotiations, and the approval of the September 23rd and October 14th, 2014 closed session minutes. We have seven board members present this evening, none absent. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now for the very best part of any Board of Education meeting. That is student, and I'm also glad to say staff recognition this evening. First on our agenda is National Merit Scholarship semifinalists.
We are going to start this evening. Let me introduce Diana Smith, principal of York High School, and we are going to start this evening with our commended student scholars. These are students that were awarded for the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. So with that, commended students, if you could come up. Sorry. No, that's okay. That's
Good evening, and thank you for, I love this night, having the opportunity to come in and introduce you to some of the top students at York. These are the commended students, and you're going to hear a little bit more about them from Mr. McDonough. But I was asked to, I know there are a lot of introductions tonight, but I think it's important that you know something about the kids because they are so unique, ranking in the top 5% of the students in this nation that took the PSAT. We had a professional development day today at York in the afternoon, and teachers talking about engaged classrooms and trying to think about what do teachers need to do to create engaged classrooms, what do parents need to do, what do administrators and the board, what do we contribute, but also what students contribute. And I think the kids that are here tonight, both the commended students but also our semifinalists, they really sort of emulate what we look for in students who bring engaged learning to a classroom for a teacher, for any teacher. They are focused, they're committed, they're passionate, they're risk takers. They're also great test takers as well. And so I want to talk a little bit about all of them. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. I was, again, asked to keep this fairly brief, but students, you probably know that's almost impossible for me when I'm talking about you. I can tell you that they are the children of parents that are here tonight. They are the children of, and I'm not doing it individually, technically I'm doing this collectively. Valerie and Victor Alvarado, Michael and Dee Dee Bandy, Steve and Susan Chamberlain, Kathleen and Russell Dale, John and Leslie Fabry, Robert and Karen Grassi, Russell and Irene Holman, Holly and Kelly Cost, John and Jill McDonough, Kathy and John Meyer, John and Ann Nicholson, Hiram and Lena Shaw, and Jeff and Sandra Teague. These students are involved in every AP course, or have been in every AP course that we offer. They lead organizations, they volunteer for charitable work, they're involved in band and orchestra and choir, they're dancers, they're singers, they are involved in most of our sports, which is interesting as well, including our state-ranked softball teams and our state-ranked cross-country teams, dozens of clubs. They're headed to college, good ones. They're all headed to college. They have not all selected their schools yet. We know they're coming up on this important November 1 deadline. The seniors actually today were home because it was a testing day for the underclassmen. I just told a couple of them I was tempted to program a little automatic phone call to them at about 5:30 this morning just to make sure that they were all waking up. But I know they were working on their college apps today as well, getting ready. But in addition to being great students and great artists, they're also some of the kindest, young people you will ever meet, and it's my pleasure to introduce Valerie and Brooke and Laurel and Nathan and Madeline and Catherine and Ethan and Spencer and Martin and Allison, Haley, Kanchi, and Alexander, our commended students.
If you listen to the accomplishments and the things that they have done and the things that they're doing that Ms. Smith just said, and as you get to know them, you know the things they do, you realize that these kids are speaking to us, their families, their school community, their friends. They're telling us that they know life is not about gaudy scores and GPAs, even though they definitely have them. And they're telling us that fine arts and music matters, that performance and sports give you a sense of discipline and liberation. They're also telling us that experiment and endeavor, creation and compassion, diversity and balance are important. And the National Merit says they have outstanding potential for academic success, but we know they have much more to say. And so congratulations on this recognition, but thanks for sharing your message with us. So let me read the proclamation. Whereas the National Merit Scholarship Program, established in 1955, is recognized throughout America as the most prestigious indicator of academic excellence. And whereas of the 1.5 million entrants, some 50,000 with the highest PSAT NMSQT selection index scores qualified for recognition in the National Merit Scholarship Program. And whereas in late September, more than 2/3 of the approximately 50,000 high scorers on the PSAT and MSQT received letters of commendation in recognition of their outstanding academic promise. And whereas a National Merit Scholarship Corporation spokesperson recently noted that the young men and women being named commended students have demonstrated outstanding potential for academic success. These students represent a valuable national resource. Recognizing their accomplishments as well as the key role their schools play in their academic development is vital to the advancement of educational excellence in our nation. We hope that this recognition will help broaden their educational opportunities and encourage them as they continue their pursuit of academic success. And whereas the following York Community High School class of 2015 have been named as 2015 National Merit Commended Students, representing the top 5% of U.S. high school seniors: Valeria Alvarado, Brooke Bandy, Laurel Chamberlain, Nathan Dale, Madeline Fabry, Catherine Grassi, Ethan Holman, Spencer Cost, Martin McDonough, Allison Meyer, Haley Nicholson, Kanchi Shah, and Alexander Teague. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to York Community High School, District 205, the families of these students, and the community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express congratulations to these students for this outstanding academic accomplishment. Congratulations. So if you would circle around, I have one for you, and then shake everybody's hands. So if you want to start here, come on. Congratulations. And you could just go down. Congratulations. 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 Just throw it. Congratulations. 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 All right. Here you go. Here you go.
We have one more student to recognize this evening, and again, Mrs. Diana Smith will do the honors.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce Hannah Widmeyer to you, and you may be familiar with Hannah already. What a lovely student and somebody that I have really enjoyed working with, a friend to so many kids I know here in the group. It's interesting to see the kids together tonight and the parents, because you all seem to know each other, and I can tell that one of the parents just said this is the beautiful thing about a unit school district, is seeing teachers here in the audience that have worked with their kids, and it's neat to see you all together tonight as well. But to talk a little bit about Hannah, Hannah is a National Merit semifinalist, which places her in the top 1% of all students nationwide. She's the daughter of Hans and Janet Widmeyer. She has a younger sister at York. She's an accomplished dancer. She's in our orchestra, and she is a vocalist. She has taken, I believe I looked at your transcript, and I think you have taken at some point, or you're enrolled now, in AP coursework in U.S. history, government, music theory, English language and lit, biology, calculus, and Mrs. Chester, AP French as well. She's a member of the York Advisory Team, and that's where I've gotten to know her over the last few years. We have enjoyed working with her and seeing her finding her voice as a student leader, but also she is just kind and thoughtful and a pleasure to know. And it's my pleasure to introduce Hannah Widmeyer.
I'm just a little slow. It's a privilege for me to read the proclamation tonight. I've known Hannah since she was in first grade, I think. So it's a thrill for me. And I have to say, all of the accolades that Hannah received tonight are just the beginning. One of the most talented young people I've ever met. So let me just say, whereas the National Merit Scholarship Corporation, established in 1955, is recognized throughout America as the most prestigious indicator of academic excellence. And whereas more than 160,000 high school juniors from all parts of the United States requested consideration in the 2015 National Achievement Scholarship Program when they took the 2013 preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. And whereas this program encourages excellence by identifying high school students whose performance on this test ranks them among the highest scoring entrants in each state and recognizes them among the most academically talented students in the nation. And whereas your community high school student Hannah Widmeyer qualified as a National Merit Scholarship finalist in 2015, representing less than 1% of U.S. high school seniors. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to York Community High School, Elmhurst District 205, the Widmeyer family, and our entire community. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express congratulations to Hannah for this outstanding achievement. Principal Smith.
On behalf of all the faculty and staff of Elmhurst 205, let me offer my congratulations also to all of the students who have been recognized here this evening. You really make the district very proud. Every year that we go through this, we send students off to their senior year and on to their life's journey, and it's always a pleasure to have confidence that these students are going to make an impact somewhere in their lifetime upon all of us. So congratulations to all of you. We're going to turn now to staff recognition. We have quite a few staff members that are going to be recognized this evening. It's also a treat. So I'm going to start with the 2014 Illinois School Board Educational Association, Those Who Excel Award, and Linda Fehrenbacher. will be introducing that award winner this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. It was 3 years ago when I first met,
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, didn't have it on. It was 3 years ago when I started at Jefferson that I first met Nikki Valancourt. And I asked her what her vision of the library was, and she said she wanted it to, she thought it was the hub of the school where learning and relaxation and a love of reading happened. It didn't take me long to realize that that was where it happened, and it was because of the numerous things that she had going on. Whether it is the Brown Bag Book Club with Dave Grelecki, the Aussie Reading Club, the Readers Are Leaders, the intervention groups, the enrichment groups, it didn't matter what it was, she was right there in the center of it all, leading that and being the integral force in helping kids learn. In addition to that, she supports the school through school improvement, through the being at the carnival, being at Science Olympiad, whatever's happening at Jefferson to make it a better school, you can count on Nikki Valancourt being a part of that. And so with that, I just want to add just a couple of other things. One night I was there, and it was one of those nights where it was raining heavily in Elmhurst, and she was still there. And the next thing I knew, I heard something, and I got up and went in there, and she was pulling books from the shelves because a small leak had developed, and she wanted to save books. And it was because of her diligence and her personal responsibility and ownership for what she believes in that she saved a lot of books that night, and really, I just am so indebted to her for that. In addition to that, she has a display case outside the library where kids sign up and bring their own collections, and so they share those, and it's just a way, another little piece of Jefferson's culture and history that makes it such a great school. Nikki Valancourt loves what she does. She's dedicated. She's one of the first people there and one of the last people to leave. She'll do whatever you ask her to do, and she lives out the motto, those who excel. I'd like Nikki to come forward now so I can introduce you to her. I'm humbled and honored to introduce Nikki Valancourt.
What a pleasure. I just got to meet Nikki last week. I got to be one of those people who was invited to be a leader for readers. And Nikki was so, first off, she sent this invitation. She was very flexible with my schedule, and she sent reminders. And I said, I don't know what books to pick out. No worries. I've got 3 choices. You come early, and you can read some of them, and you can know which one to pick. All right, Nikki, I'll do that. And she sent me a reminder note ahead of time. All the things that were just said about your dedication, I knew that within 30 seconds of meeting you. Besides the fact that when you go to her library, you can really tell that she makes it a place where people want to come, where kids want to come, where they want to learn to read. And thank you very much for that. The proclamation that we have. Whereas the Illinois State Board of Education annually recognizes and honors individuals who have made outstanding contributions to public and non-public elementary and secondary education by recognizing them as those who excel award recipients. And whereas last spring, Elmhurst School District 205 staff member Nicolette Valancourt was nominated by Principal Linda Fehrenbacher in the 40th annual ISBE Those Who Excel competition. And whereas on October 25th, 2014, at the Those Who Excel Award Banquet and Program in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, an award of merit in the Student Support Personnel category was bestowed to Mrs. Valancourt, who currently serves as the LRC Director at Jefferson Elementary School. And whereas State Superintendent Christopher Koch has noted that I am very proud that we have been celebrating excellence in Illinois educators for 40 years and recognizing these individuals who devote themselves to helping students learn and be successful. I am happy to have the opportunity to publicly thank them for their dedication to students across the state. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to Elmhurst Community School District 205, Jefferson Elementary School, the staff, the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express deep appreciation and congratulations to Nikki for her outstanding accomplishments. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to introduce Beth Greger. Beth is the principal of Emerson, and she will be announcing the award for Jump Rope for the Heart, who we have in this district as Coordinator of the Year.
It is my pleasure to share with you some information about Tammy Henderson, who has led the Jump Rope for Heart event at Emerson School since 1997. This event has grown over the years, and in 2013, we raised over $18,000, and in 2014, over $21,000. And that is within the top 1% of the nation in funds being raised. While the money has been donated to the American Heart Association, and it's important and very impressive, what is more important is the dedication that Tammy has given to Emerson students and families in spreading the word that we improve our cardiovascular endurance and coordination and the heart health discussions that occur before, during, and after the Jump Rope for Heart event at Emerson. In 2013, Tammy and an Emerson parent, Dr. Apuragami, took 14 students to the IAHPERD, which is the Illinois Association for Health, Physical Education, and Recreation and Dance, state convention to show how they lead the heart healthy awareness for the Jump Rope for Heart event. Students demonstrated their jump rope moves and techniques and shared how they raised money by sending emails, educating the recipients on how to be heart healthy. At the 2014 IAHPERD convention, Tammy will be given the honor of the 2014 Jump Rope for Heart Coordinator of the Year. Congratulations, Tammy, for this well-deserved recognition of your hard work and efforts for the American Heart Association and healthy heart awareness for the Emerson students and families.
So I was fortunate enough to, in our first year of initiating the school liaison program, being assigned to Emerson. And I can attest, I'm quite surprised to hear that it was 17 years that you've been doing this, because her enthusiasm, I'm not surprised as to how much money you helped to raise for this wonderful nationwide cause. She even had me participating with the kids in obstacle course in PE. So with that, there's a lot of, what the word is in here, incredible statistics, so I won't repeat any of those sorts of things. So congratulations, Tammy, and here's a proclamation. Whereas the Illinois Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance was founded in 1931 by a group of professionals dedicated to improving the effectiveness of health, physical education, recreation, dance, and the promotion of human welfare. And whereas
the Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance Convention. Whereas they're proud to be associated with the American Heart Association, AHA, and promoting the Jump Rope for Heart and Hoops for Heart programs in Illinois. And at the IAHP-ERD convention, the State of Illinois Jump Rope for Heart Committee will recognize and honor coordinators from Illinois who have been involved with the Jump Rope or Hoops for Heart events. And whereas Tammy Henderson, Emerson physical education teacher, will be recognized as a 2014 Jump Rope for Heart Coordinator of the Year at the state convention in November. And whereas Mrs. Henderson has led the Jump Rope for Heart effort at Emerson School for many years, 17, using it as a platform that creates an exciting way for students to improve cardiovascular endurance and coordination while also having discussions regarding heart health. And whereas in March of 2013, Emerson students also became ambassadors for the American Heart Association by sending out emails with life-saving information to family and friends, subsequently raising over $18,000, ranking the school in the top 1% of contributors in the nation. And whereas the success of Emerson's campaign led the AHA to promote this ambassador program as a regular part of the Jump Rope for Heart. And whereas in March of 2014, Emerson families raised an incredible $21,492 for the American Heart Association through Jump Rope for Heart, ranking 33 out of 7,133 schools in the Midwest, which constitutes 11 states, and 184 out of 28,337 schools in the United States. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to Elmhurst Community Unit District 205, Emerson Elementary School, and to the community, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express deep appreciation and congratulations to Tammy Henderson for her outstanding accomplishment.
I just have to say that there are sometimes unrelated benefits that come out of this. I was lucky enough to attend the Jump Rope for the Heart competition at Emerson last year, and there happened to be some cardiologists from Elmhurst Memorial Hospital, and as we were watching kids jump rope, we got in a conversation about cardiac screening of students. And that led to further conversations with Elmhurst Memorial staff, and I think this spring we're close to having Elmhurst donate to have all of our students at the high school screened for cardiovascular health come this spring. So we're finalizing those details. But without that opportunity, I don't think that would have happened. So Tammy, thank you for putting that together. And you never know what goodness comes out of some other goodness. So thank you. It's my pleasure to reintroduce Diana Smith, and she is introducing a staff member who we're very, very fortunate to have on staff, and she is the recipient of the T.E. Ryan Secondary Mathematics Teacher Award.
So it is a great pleasure, Superintendent Pernod, just as you said, to be able to introduce both students and staff tonight. But to introduce a colleague and a good friend that I've known for over 15 years at York, and I'll describe her to you, but she's one of the smartest and coolest people that I know. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Susan Brown. She's the winner of the T.E. Ryan Award, one of the top math awards for math teachers in the state of Illinois. She's a graduate of Elmhurst College. She has a master's from UIC and her PhD from Illinois State. Her dissertation was considered groundbreaking about students learning trigonometry. During her defense, someone on the committee in the group said it was, quote, the best thing to ever come out of the math department there. Sue is also one of the leading textbook authors for the University of Chicago Math Project, and I thought I just happened to have a copy with me that I would pass down to the board. Her name's first there, just in case you hadn't seen it. It is the textbook that we use for both algebra, well, for algebra A and B and algebra AB. It's just one of many textbooks that she's involved with, including one that's considered the first to use technology and calculators as the basis for the textbook. She has taught nearly everything. As the math department leader, over the years, she has taught everything. She always chooses a course that she feels needs the most work. So if it's a course that needs a curriculum revision, she steps in and teaches it. I've always marveled at the way that she believes that the strongest teachers should work at all levels, not just with honors students. She's a thoughtful leader for us on the York Instructional Advisory Council, and she is a great colleague. She is married, and her son is a computer science teacher at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. Most of all, she has 3 beautiful grandsons, Cameron, Graham, and Ian, and when she's not spending time with them, did you wear the bracelet?
I did.
I really appreciate that. Superintendent Pernod, I told you this story. The department chairs, we always like to do something where we tell each other something that maybe we don't know about each other, and Dr. Brown wore these bracelets, which are made out of piston rings from a car, because in her spare time, she travels with her husband, who is a race car driver. On the weekends, I kid you not, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the greatest math teacher, Dr. Susan Brown.
I'll say a few words, if you don't mind. We have a strong math program in our district, and I want to thank you for your dedication to our district. And as I was reading one of the goals of the Illinois Council of Teachers of Mathematics, one of their goals that they stated is to foster a greater interest of mathematics at all grade levels. And I thought our district has that goal also. And one example showing that is the addition of a STEM coordinator and a REACH coordinator this past year to work with teachers and support them to further improve mathematics and create a stronger K through 12 continuum for mathematics. So with that, the proclamation reads, whereas the Illinois Council of Teachers of Mathematics was organized in 1949 by a small group of 90 interested mathematics teachers to create and foster greater interest in the teaching of mathematics at all grade levels. And whereas the ICTM recently announced their selection of the 2014 T.E. Ryan Secondary Mathematics Teaching Award, given to a teacher who best exemplifies the following characteristics: be a 9 through 12 teacher who is a member of ICTM, has had prolonged effective service in the classroom, has been an active participant in professional organizations, is a contributor to the advancement of mathematics education, shows continued growth as a mathematics educator, provides leadership and influences others towards improved mathematics education. And whereas Sue Brown has served as president of the Chicago Metropolitan Mathematics Club, as a board member of the Illinois Council of Teachers of Mathematics, and was a major contributor to the University of Chicago School Mathematics Project, which helped develop math curriculum and text used throughout the country. And whereas on October 17, at the ICTM annual meeting in Tinley Park, Illinois, Ms. Brown, who serves as York High School's mathematics department coordinator and has taught math there for 27 years, was awarded the T.E. Ryan Secondary Mathematics Teaching Award. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to Elmhurst Community Unit District 205, York Community High School, and to the community, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express deep appreciation and congratulations to Sue Brown for her outstanding accomplishment.
We have one more award this evening, and this is a new award that we are introducing and inaugurating this evening. It's called the Shining Star Awards. And these awards are going to faculty members who are often unheralded, that often are invisible, but make this district just one of the outstanding districts in the state of Illinois. It's not about one person, it's about all of us working together for the benefit of our children in Elmhurst. And there's just some dedicated, unheralded people that fly under the radar often. And this is an attempt to really recognize those people. The Shining Star Award is coordinated just by colleagues who nominate their fellow staff members and recognize them as doing something outstanding for the district or for students. It's really that simple and it's really that complicated because, again, these are people that would not normally be recognized, but we want to recognize those people on a regular basis who really make a difference. So these are our inaugural Shining Star Awards. I'm going to name those people, do a short brief what they have been nominated for. If they would come to the front as I say your name, and then Trustee Emily Bastido will be doing the honors of giving certificates and explain a little more about Shining Stars. So with that, our first nominee is Kathy Clark. If Kathy's in the audience, if you could come up to the front. Kathy is the educational assistant at Jefferson. She was nominated by Kristen Weidmeyer and Emily Jorgalis. Kathy always puts the students first and works hard to provide accommodations to students so they can be successful in the classroom on a daily basis. Our next person is Ramon L. Cantor. Ramon, are you in? Ramon's not here, but he is the custodian at Hawthorne Elementary School. Ramon runs the school, nothing like an elementary custodian to be a busy person. It's a very busy place, and I can tell you Hawthorne, one of our biggest elementary schools, is a busy place to be a custodian. But in addition to that, Ramon has helped set up and implement Hawthorne's recycling program. His ideas and willingness to keep things sorted have helped to cut the school's lunch landfill waste in half this past year. So congratulations to Ramon. Joe DeVito. Joe is the educational assistant and Brian. He is nominated by Linda Fehrenbacher and Jeff Gale. Joe goes above and beyond each day working one-on-one with a student. Throughout difficult times with the student at times, Joe remains calm, focused, and truly cares about meeting that child's particular needs. Jen Lieben. Jen is the art teacher at Sandburg, nominated by Linda Fehrenbacher and Jeff Gale. Jen created and decorated bulletin boards that were bare before opening house this year. She shared her students' work and was chosen for an award at the Illinois Art Education Association's annual conference. Julie Nowak, third grade teacher at Hawthorne. Nominated by Jessica Larson, Nikki Tamaru, and Kim Nissen. Julie is the kind of person who always smiles in the face of a challenge. Regardless of the situation, Julie never complains, says thank you for even the most minimal support, and finds the way to teach her students, love them, and keep smiling. Cass Rufus. I didn't see Cass. Cass was nominated by Nick Bertoni, Tricia Herwood, and Jerry Sarantino, fourth grade teacher at Hawthorne. Cass earns the respect of his students and parents and co-workers through his daily efforts. He is always stretching and accessing new resources to create the best learning environment for his students. And finally, Jessica Walker. Jessica is the science teacher at Churchville. Jessica was nominated by Jessica Meza and Ben Hardman. Jessa has utilized instructional coaches who are new this year to really strengthen her classroom and her learning environment. She has shown an amazing collaborative spirit, sharing her learning with her teams and colleagues this year for the betterment of all the students at Churchville. So congratulations, and with that I'll turn it over to Emily.
I just wanted to reiterate what Dave said, that this is the best part of every board meeting. So thank you for coming here and giving us a chance to say thank you to you. I'm happy that we're going to have the chance to honor more staff members, that these are the first of hopefully many Shining Star Awards. And I'd like to thank the people who nominated the teachers. A lot of times we hear about the great things that staff members do and read about the great things, and occasionally we get to see the great things. But in case we don't, it's nice that their fellow staff members have nominated them so that they can come here and we can say thank you tonight. So I'll hand you your award and then you can do the handshake. Thank you.
We'd just like to say Cass isn't here because he's crazy enough to coach my daughter and a bunch of 6th grade girls tonight in basketball. So thank you to Cass especially.
Bless him.
So this is the point where we take a short break because there's
I don't think
a day to prepare for, work to do, colleges to apply to.
Wants her book back. Yeah. Chris Welton would nick him for the book, cost of the book. All right.
Is he collecting paper clips? All right, next on our agenda is public comments. I don't have any blue cards. Is there anyone here to make a public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to Superintendent's communications. Mr. Purnell.
Yes, the first item is Freedom of Information Act request since our last meeting. We had one regarding employee job titles, hours worked, which was granted, one regarding the district employee's contract, which was also granted, and one regarding payroll records for a summer project, which was also granted. The second item on Superintendent's communication this evening is Senate Bill 16 resolution. We have, at the last board meeting, we had introduced a couple of sample resolutions for Senate Bill 16 if the board wished to take action. The board at that time asked that a revised resolution be brought back for your consideration this evening. And so that's what you have in your packet this evening is a brief summary version of the resolution. I'm introducing it this evening for board comments and revisions. If the board wishes to, later on the agenda, I have saved an agenda item for possible approval, but that is entirely up to the Board of Education. I wonder, David, if we could get that up on the, so that board and the public can see that and they can work on it. So with that, I would ask the board at your will what you would like to do with this.
Any?
I have a comment.
Okay. Shannon?
Before we jump into the resolution, I wanted to talk about some of the work that's been going on, what work our board's been doing regarding Senate Bill 16. So just a little recap. You know, as I thought about the last couple months, phone calls have been made to representatives and senators. We've attended LEND meetings. I know Karen attends each meeting, and a group of us attended the meeting in September where we listened to senators, a senator and representative. And then we've prepared presentations for our PTAs. I presented at Jackson last week. I know there were other presentations and also at the PTA Council of the impact of the bill and disseminating information to the community about what's in the bill. And we also are preparing, I know Emily and Margaret are working on a legislative forum with our PTA Council. That's going to be happening in the future, and Karen. So there's been a lot of work happening in the last few months, or after the bill was passed, and wanted to recognize that.
There was also a district-wide email or two sent, I believe. And Dave, was there a letter to the editor? There was something in the newspaper also.
Yes, I put in a letter to the editor related to the community on SB 16. So.
Okay. And I don't know if Karen or someone else has an update. I thought the last I heard that there wasn't the threat that there was before, that they would that this would be called in the veto session or the lame duck session. Is that true, or is there an update?
What we have, the latest that I have, is that the chairman of the House Education Committee has sent a letter out indicating that the possibility of it being introduced either in November or during the lame session has been, they think they need more work on it. That is not to say it's an absolute guarantee that SB 16 would not suddenly appear in the lame duck session at the last minute and be voted on. But our indication was at least all the efforts by all of the districts did make some of the legislators who had sponsored the bill think twice and start reconsidering moving the bill forward without further discussion. Now, whether that actually happens, as you know, there's no guarantee that we come January. I think the governor's race may have an effect on where this bill goes, depending on who takes the seat in the governor's house. So there's a lot of moving parts to this at this point.
Sure.
Just to add to that specific question, is even in the LEND meeting on Friday, Peg gave us an update. It will definitely, well, it will be spring session, and so it is going to be discussed. They're looking for everyone to be at the table and address the issues. So there was a lot of discussion with all of the district representatives at the LEND meeting on Friday about the key components that we would want to be included. And there is also conversation. First off, they were asking for districts to pass a resolution because that's the process legislatively, in addition to everything else we've been doing, but to continue the conversations. And I had updated the Peg, our executive director of LEND, as well as all the districts, that we have been asked by our community or our PTA council legislative chair to participate in a session with the community. It may be bigger than Senate Bill 16, but definitely Senate Bill 16 creates the opportunity for a bigger discussion about education and all of the issues, because that's really what this bill gets to the bottom of. And so it's complicated. And so everyone it's continuing the discussions about what do we really need to get in front of the legislators with so that they can have that complex discussion, but also truly create equity.
I can throw my 2 cents in. Senate Bill 16 would take our current budget, 7% of it comes from the state of Illinois. Senate Bill 16 would take that funding down to 2 or 3% of our budget. I'm concerned when we use terms like to develop a school funding system that effectively addresses adequacy and equity for all students in the state of Illinois. What I don't think it would be a benefit to our community is a system that some other states have, whereas Elmhurst sends the money that they currently pay down to Springfield, and then Springfield allocates it back. I can't guarantee, but I'm going to speculate that would most assuredly be a losing proposition for the people of District 205 and of Elmhurst. that we would not get back nearly what we sent to Springfield. My personal opinion is, as long as we're down to 2%, if our community chose to go to 0%, that the state would pass a bill that would free us from the unfunded mandates in the school code. I think that would do more to advance education in Elmhurst than anything else that's being currently proposed. Those are my thoughts. I'm curious to see others.
Thank you. One of the comments that has been made that this bill was an attempt to provide equity. And obviously everyone is interested and wants to make sure all students can reach their potential because that's our next generation, those are our leaders. The ideal should not be to take from one group to provide for another group. And unfortunately, it appears that is what this bill is trying to do or attempting to do. The other point that I'd like to bring up here is that it is always the idea that you want to get all voices at the table. You want all voices to hear because you get better ideas and better thoughts that way. And again, it appears, not having been at any of those meetings, thank goodness, that was not how things occurred. So one slight change that I would recommend, and this is a minor editing piece, is that the part where it talks about supporting a bipartisan effort, since as a school board we are nonpartisan, if we could just remove that one word and find an alternate word to represent the same idea of having all people, all involved parties at the table, but taking away the idea of a partisan. Thank you.
Maybe you could say to support an effort with feedback from all stakeholders. I mean, it's just trying to get all the different groups, teachers, administrators, school board members, different groups in the General Assembly. So it's more having the right stakeholders at the table. Yeah.
John, go ahead.
Well, we we have to pass it tonight, so I'll just make a real specific one. Support a multi-stakeholder effort, and then it reads the same. I think, I'm glad it's general, I'm glad it's not specific, but I also think it's weak in its statement. Not only do we not support it, we oppose the passage of Senate Bill 16 in its current form. And we feel that going to the middle whereas clause kind of bunches our three problems with it into one place and kind of hides them. I'd support breaking into three. Say, we believes the present bill fails to address the issue of adequacy of school funding in Illinois, and the board believes it will have a significant negative impact on the education program of the Elmhurst Public Schools, and whereas the board believes the current bill will improperly increase the reliance on local school property taxes. Just wanted to strengthen some of those statements. Even though we want to go general and not go into too much depth here, I think what we really want to do is we want to express our opinion strongly that this bill doesn't work. I said a significant negative impact.
So are you okay with what I'm doing? You want a separate whereas?
break them all. I mean, I would break it into three because it's our three strong reasons, and they're kind of lost in the one paragraph. So.
While Dave is typing,
Before negative.
I
Paragraph, don't you want to say instead of does not support, you want to say opposes?
Improperly is what I use, but maybe there's a better adjective, adverb that should go there. It's taking us in the wrong direction.
You say opposes instead of does not support?
And then opposes instead of does not support. Yeah. So,
I'm not sure I got all the changes.
that's good enough. Oh,
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just bring up a general comment with, I'm not sure that this is the best way to do it. I think the most effective way thus far has been Karen's efforts led by Karen and others to talk to our legislatures, our PTAs, getting in front. I think, Dave's written an editorial, we're on the record as doing this. I mean, we're going to basically go on the record again as doing this. I think it's a very complex issue. My concern is that we are somehow twisted into supporting something or something else that maybe we didn't intend by this because it is vague. It's not necessarily nailed down. I mean, there's things as goofy as just, I would like to propose that the state actually pay their bills on time. I mean, we could start with that because they're going to give us 2 payments this year as projected. They paid us 5 last year in an election year, now 2 years, now only 2 this year because the election will be over, but not just whipsaws our budget. That's $2.5 million worth of a hole that we've got to figure out how to fill. Secondly, the entire issue of mandates has a lot to do with the correct way to fund priorities. So I don't think that anyone at this board is debating some of the priorities in the mandates or the objectives of the mandates. These are good things to help special needs kids, to help ELL, things like that. I'll give you an anecdote that Dave and I talked about. I mean, is it good for all the high school kids to learn CPR? Sure. But you pass it in Springfield, you hand it to us, you don't hand us any money with it. Well, if you believe it's a priority in Springfield, then should you be the one that finds the funding? Or is it, you hand it to us and tell us that we have to find the funding because it's so easy for them? And I think that's the issue with the mandates. It's not necessarily a debate against the objective of the mandate. It's the fact that if the state has a priority to fund something or wants something to happen, in many of these cases, the funding should come from the state. These are things that are beyond equity and sufficiency and things like that. It's a general concept of the schools have been made into. And Karen, I would love to remember the 5 things that you told me, but we're the doctors and the psychologists and the evolution of what the schools have become. And maybe it's just because it's easy to hand us the bill and tell us to go find the money for it. But these are broader discussions that we need to have. And passing the resolution, what I'm concerned with is that it puts us on the record as being something that may be twisted into supporting some way of doing something when we come back later and say, hey, that's not what we meant by this. I just don't know what we gain by it. I think Karen's efforts, the PTA's efforts, the rest of our efforts in being on the record as saying that we oppose this bill, I think are important. I'd rather spend our time talking to Karen and the rest of us about how to further engage the legislature as this bill evolves. What we've heard is that it won't be called in its current form, which is a really cute way of saying I changed 3 words and I'm calling it again. But who knows? But we have to keep that conversation going, and who knows where that's going to go. It's a much broader conversation. It's a multi-stakeholder conversation that more than a resolution will address. And I think our commitment should be more towards engagement on an ongoing basis versus this. I worry about it. I just think it's overly general, it's symbolic, and I'm more for substance. So I would probably abstain from a vote on it.
Yeah, to add to that, I would say that I think we've done a very good job of collectively raising the community's awareness of this. And, the 44,000 votes that Elmhurst represents I think has a far greater impact than the 7 of us voting on a resolution. I think we should spend our efforts raising community awareness of the impact that this particular bill has on education in Elmhurst. And again, like Chris says, you vote yes, and the next thing you're hearing is, well, you voted for this, and now we're doing exactly what you told us to do, so therefore you must support it. And now it's supported by every Collier County school board that's passed a resolution, whatever that may be, however it can be twisted. And I'm just wary of resolutions for that reason.
I think we've taken more than enough time on the resolution. I think we should get it over with and move on to the substantive work. I agree wholeheartedly with you. We had to do it. We had to join the group. We had to put in our 2 cents worth. We said it strongly, and then we move on. Because you're right, it won't do much. But I think we have to do it to show our position. So
You're saying, let's vote on it.
let's vote on it and move on.
All right. Any other changes? Hearing none? All in favor? Oh, go ahead, Margaret. Here, we're not going to cut you off.
And I guess this comment is reflective of how things could change. And I wonder if we oppose the passage of Senate Bill 16 as it stands in its current form, and then put the date in there. So if there's something that changes, we can say we were talking about the bill as it stood, on October 27th. 28th.
Yeah, it's missing some words too.
That works.
In its current form. As passed by the House, actually.
No, Senate.
I'm sorry, I said House.
Yeah.
I think there's something missing in the before the word addressing. So we don't oppose a bill that addresses the restructuring of school funding.
Oppose the passage of Senate Bill 16 in its current form.
In its current form,
Which
as it addresses.
Okay.
Okay. We good with the changes?
One last thought. Do we want to state that we recognize the need for school funding reform? Or is that, we know, is that not too much? Okay.
Now you're recommending legislation.
Say we stand ready to support a multi-stakeholder effort to develop a school funding system that effectively addresses adequacy and equity for all students.
Instead of a multi-stakeholder, because I would say comprehensive effort. But, they could, what's the definition of multi-stakeholder?
So do you want to replace multi-stakeholder with the word comprehensive?
When you say comprehensive, you mean comprehensive in terms of the number of people or the groups that are involved in it. Because usually a comprehensive effort doesn't seem to refer to who, it's more of what the effort is to overhaul it entirely. And I think that's changing comprehensive for multi-stakeholder changes the meaning. But I also feel like we've spent too much time on this already. So.
How about now? We good? All in favor? Aye.
Got to do it down on number 10 on our agenda.
Sorry. All right. Let's.
We get a little bit of time to
Thank you,
think about
John.
it.
Thank you, John, for reading ahead on the agenda.
I might vote no.
Okay, David, if you would save that, and then we put it back up later in the agenda. Thank you. Next item to discuss is tentative issues and topics for community engagement process. If you remember in August, the administration presented a strategic plan for the next 3 years. Part of that plan was to engage the community in a process to identify and have discussions on a number of issues and topics that we would identify that were key to the future of Elmhurst 205. And tonight, as the first step in the process, I want to engage the board in a discussion of what those key issues and topics might be that we want to engage the community in. From that, we would use these topics as a starting point for the discussion with the community. We also need to decide whether we are interested in engaging a consultant to help us with this community engagement process. The Board of Education at that August workshop had a presentation by a consulting firm of what the scope of that would look like, what community engagement would look like with the help of the consultant. So we don't have to decide that tonight, but I would like to at least begin the discussion of what topics we think are key that we want to identify to flesh out to the community and have community input into the future over the next 18 months. So my administrative team, we brainstormed the ones that are attached to the board agenda tonight, but I'm sure there are others. So with that, the board, just a free-flowing discussion on if these resonate, if there are different ones, if there are replacements, if there are additions, then let's capture those this evening. And then what I would like to do is come back at the next board meeting, kind of finalize these, and then have the discussion about the consulting, whether we want to go with a consulting firm to help us with this and that process. So turn over the board.
Margaret?
I just have one question, and I'm wondering if you could help define that restructuring middle school and high school, because I'm trying to see if my thought will fit under there or not.
Well, let me talk about the middle school. I think there's been talk in the past about the curriculum, the structure of the middle school and the curriculum that we offer, and whether that is current and the kind of middle school curriculum offerings that we want at the middle school. And if it's not, what changes might that look like? So it's an engagement process in looking at our middle school and whether or not curriculum, class offerings, how the middle school operates might be changed for the future. Probably the same thing at the high school. I think the topic that keeps coming up is if at the high school level, do you continue to offer a high option high school curriculum that offers lots of opportunities for kids across a wide spectrum, or do you specialize in some items and some curriculum and not offer the comprehensive, all-inclusive high school that we presently have? I mean, there are pros and cons to both those approaches, and so the discussion with the community, and I think we touched on this in the Superintendent's Community Advisory Committee 2 years ago, was what kind of high school experience do we want? And the other part is, and at that point it was more of a pressing issue than it is now, but I think it may become a pressing issue again, is what can the community afford when it comes to that kind of high school. Can we continue to fund a very high option, multi-elective, comprehensive high school model as it presently stands? So those are some of those are at least our thoughts in those two items. That's not to say they're the only ones.
The other thought I would add to this is I think if you have something that you're thinking of adding, I would encourage you to add it, because we can quickly determine what does not resonate with the community. It's easier to take something off than add it later on, in my mind. So I would encourage anybody with some thoughts, and I have a few, to add it to this list, and we can add it later. So, Margaret, you had a thought.
So yes, my thought, and that, thank you for that explanation. And as I heard, that touched a lot on the academic learning. And I'd like to, when we were talking about restructuring the middle school / high school, to add some piece in there that talks about the social emotional learning for the students. And in particular, if those students, what happens for those students who appear that they cannot function in our current environment? How do we handle those? So I'm speaking in particular of how do we manage those students who might need to be outplaced, not specifically for special ed, but perhaps for behavioral reasons. So adding that piece into that, talking about alternative schools, either at the middle school and or high school level. The other piece that I would like to add, totally different, is we've had some conversation about privacy of student data and student information, and how, what that means for our community and how that might play out.
Now, Dave, are you compiling these?
Yes.
Should we have?
Yeah, I'm
All right.
I'm taking them here, so.
Okay.
And Ellen will have them too.
Okay, great. Shannon?
Yeah, for restructuring middle school, I'd like to talk about unified arts, or, add, I don't know if we specifically call that out, but that's
That would
part of
be-
that's the discussion.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that is
Unified
part of
arts.
the discussion.
Okay. And then facility needs, John keeps talking about this, a long-term capital plan is what we need.
John?
On that point, we call out Lincoln separately, and I'm not sure the qualitative distinction of Lincoln from the other facilities has really been made, so I'd just broaden it out and say Lincoln and all aging or obsolete facilities. Now, I hope that's not perceived as a slap at Lincoln, that it's obsolete. It is functionally obsolete. We know it's functionally obsolete, and any architect will tell you that. But just to broaden it up so it's not just Lincoln.
Well, isn't that what the maintenance and upgrade to present facilities is? Because I do feel like Lincoln has been singled out and is at the top of our list. And
I think the distinction is the first one has to do with replacement. The last one has to do with maintenance, upgrade, and building what's already there. It's almost that like there is a conclusion that Lincoln has to be replaced. Probably that's the case, but we need some input before we make the conclusion. And there are other things that may need to be replaced that we don't realize it until we get into this engagement process. So it's to broaden them into, unless we want to address Lincoln separately and independently from the other needs, but I think it has to be part of a comprehensive program.
Chris?
Yeah, I think, John, what you're saying is facilities needs really becomes long-term capital plan, and underneath that, there are various facilities. There's a maintenance aspect of it. There's also a replacement, rehab, renovate aspect to it. Security and safety plays into that, but that's, and jumping to Lincoln is the one that comes to mind because it's been the most top of mind, but I think we're jumping ahead because we haven't gone through the exercise of looking at all of the rest of them. We're kind of sneaking ahead where we think we know where it's going to be, and I'd be shocked if it wasn't on that list, but there may be others. I think that's your point.
The only thing I would say is, I don't want this to be misconstrued by the Lincoln community as it has now just dropped a little bit in its priority. I think, just so we explain that to the Lincoln community, because I think there is a separate issue with Lincoln beyond what you're going to do with the other schools. I think you're facing a more urgent issue with Lincoln. And again, we don't know the plan, so I'm taking this one with a grain of salt, but I do think Lincoln is a pressing issue of greater scope that's significant for this community than some of the other things I think you're talking about. So I would just put that caveat in there for that. We know Lincoln is a major issue that has to be dealt with.
Chris?
Just a couple more. One of them, and again, to your point, these may fall off the list as not priorities when we start talking to folks about it, but I would add, basically, what's the best way to say it? I mean, activity and athletic fees, the role of extracurriculars, and how we fund them. And I think we had a big pressure, and the fees were talked about when budget was tight. Budget's better now, but to Dave's point, you can't guarantee that it'll stay like this. And we had wanted to engage the public in a conversation at the time because there was an acute pain. Now, just because there's not doesn't mean we shouldn't have that conversation. So, I think in general, there was some good conversation that was coming up at the time we were talking about activity fees. We should revisit with the community. I think, by and large, it was how much does the taxpayer pay for and how much does the user pay for is just a broader discussion around that. And then the role they're going to play within their education. So that was one piece, and I've got another one unless you want to chime in on that. And the second piece is I think we should engage the community in a discussion around the importance of professional development and how we fund it for our teachers. I think it's a community benefit, it's a community discussion. I mean, we're talking about some things here that are maybe we've got parent focus on maybe a little bit, but I think we all agree that having a great teacher in front of the classroom is the number one impact on whether our kids learn well. And I think professional development and kind of the structure of how we grow great teachers is an important strategic discussion to have, and pointing out to the community that that's not free and that we have to invest in that. And so, any one of these other items on the list, including activity fees and how we fund extracurriculars, could be sources of funding they go together with where do we put the money. If we need money for professional development, if we agree that even in a tight budget, we're going to have to find room for it, where in the list of priorities does that fit? And we should have that discussion about how important it is, I think. So I would like to put the importance of professional development and how we fund it on the list. So that was the other one.
Okay. I had a couple of ideas as well. One around high school and middle school. You talked about extracurricular activities and their role. I'd like to take a comprehensive look at a high school student's day, and in kind of the in kind of the perspective of what the race to nowhere cause is all about. The pressure that we put kids under, the sleep that the system deprives them of. And our high school is the same as every other high school and every other high-performing high school in America. It's no different, but I think our community deserves the opportunity to be heard about what they think, about a high school student's day and the pressure that they're under for 4 years. And we talked about restructuring as part of the middle school, restructuring unified arts and music's role in that. Another one I'd love to add is a discussion of world language at an earlier age. I think we have many people in our community that are very interested in that. Maybe if you're talking about all-day kindergarten, you now have time in the kindergarten day when children's brains are most adaptive to a new language early in life. I'd like to see that added as a subcategory of those topics as well. I think we've got everything on my list with those two ads. Anyone else? Karen?
As not to increase the length of it, I just wanted clarification on two particular items. For technology one-to-one initiatives, I'm reading that more the mobile learning initiative, which then gets to some of Chris's points as it relates to this, and it's the classroom. And I would actually recommend that we change the title and not say technology one-to-one initiatives, to ensure that we don't get off track with it, because it's all about teaching and learning. And then secondly, just clarification on the structure of REACH program. Is it just the structure, or that was just a word that was put in there to have the discussion on REACH program in general?
It's more a discussion on REACH program in general and what are our objectives for the REACH program and where do we want to go, so.
Anna?
I just had a question. Do you mean to change the technology bullet point to mobile learning initiative?
That's my
Okay.
recommendation,
Okay,
so that
That
we
makes
don't
sense.
get
Okay, yeah.
I think
That
that's
makes
off
sense.
track. It's not about technology. It's how can technology. It's not just about technology, it's how technology impacts the outcomes, not only for our students' outcomes, which is the ultimate, but also for our employees. So that it's in the classroom, it will actually spread all of our students, you know, and it actually relates to the data management. Instead of the data warehouse, it is the data management of, you know, how can we offload some of the time-consuming things that are now manual, you know, but that's not something I don't necessarily think we talk to the community about at this point, because it's kind of internal.
And then, Dave, were you looking for a discussion about the engagement of providing us with some help on structuring this discussion with the community?
Yeah, I guess I'm looking for whether or not the board wants us to go out and look at alternatives, to, like an RFP, to engage what consultant firms might be out there to help us with this process. I think, again, going back to the August workshop, the board seemed to be resonant with having a consultant come in and guide us through this community engagement process. This is a pretty long, involved process, and even the number of topics we're just developing are going to be, you know, it's going to take some art to have community engagement on that number of topics. So,
Hopefully their first job will be to help us narrow it down, maybe. Right?
good luck.
I think that it's valuable because there's so many different components here, right? It's all about our job is resource allocation, and that's a key component. So on each one of these topics, whatever we decide, if it's a lengthy list or a short list, we actually need to provide, and I'm going to use the word comprehensive, but you know, somewhat of a comprehensive view that shares all the parameters, so it's not just a wish list. Kind of like our mandates, you got to do it without really thinking what's the implications to the system and the students, and you know, what are the true objectives that we're trying to accomplish, what are the issues we're trying to address, what are the financial or resource allocation issues.
We had a great session, and I think we all saw the value of bringing in those professionals that lead you through a process. And my concern is unless we also get the public to that same understanding of what these professionals do for the process, it might be perceived as perhaps manipulative, perhaps result-oriented, and things like that. These people, I thought, presented a very good program, a rigorous program of discerning what it is a community. A very tough thing to do is to take a community and say, what are the things that are important to a community? And I thought they brought some of the best practices in that area forward, and it really was very neutral in the way it would approach things. And so somehow that if we're going to engage these professionals in what they do, we need to make sure that we adequately describe it to the public so that it doesn't get misunderstood. and it makes it even harder to go through a process like that. But after being led through the process, I saw a real value in getting what the community's desire is out of that process.
So building on John's comment, which I heard is that, which I understood to be making sure the community is aware of what a community engagement initiative would do and what it would offer. And I'm wondering, and this is just a word choice, but perhaps instead of RFP, which was a request for proposal, do a RFI, request for information, and then that information then could be shared with the community as this is what is being proposed. So that it does not give, and the reason I make that slight change, it does not give the impression to the community that we are moving forward with something that they have not been involved in and gotten feedback from yet. So the information, we could share it with the group, with the community. We'd have more information to give them on what the value and what the benefits are, and then we could decide based off that RFI how to move forward with the RFP.
Chris?
And to Margaret's point, I mean, the first question is to qualify the folks that are out there and what their approach is and how they would do it and how they would help us. We heard from one. It was interesting, intriguing, really, engaging. And so who else is there? I mean, it's just as part of a process of identifying. You start out with qualifying folks, and then you move to an RFP. So whether you call it an RFI or a Q or a S or whatever, I think we should right now go forward and identify a handful of folks that we think could do this and start to understand better their approach. I mean, maybe there's only 2 or 3. I know Chris had one of them, but I think coming out of this, why wait to figure out whether I think whether we hire them or not, there's still a first step in finding out who does what and how they would approach it.
So it sounds like we have consensus that we want to move forward in identifying firms that help school districts in this kind of process, and then moving forward to eventually come down to proposals and prices. All right, so let's move forward with that.
Thank you. The last item on the communication part of the agenda is the library grant, which is an entitlement grant the district is eligible for based upon student enrollment on September 30th, 2014. We will receive approximately $6,000 from this grant, which will be used for books, audiovisual materials, and electronic resources. We receive this grant annually, and so this is our annual approval by the Board of Education to accept the grant.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of the September 23rd, 2014 and October 14th, 2014 board minutes. Does anyone have any changes? Karen does.
Ellen, I've got a few slight changes on both. I'm going to first go with October 14th, sorry, because it's on here. On page 8, board communications. Insert after District 200, SB 16 Impact Forum, and remove meetings. And the second sentence, I'm going to try to make this easy. So districts want instead of wanted to see, or wanted to see, that's fine. SB 16, for SB 16 to include accountability, mandate relief, and equity of like students, not inequity of same students. That's okay. Yeah. and not the operational efficiency for each department. Strike that. I don't know if you caught that detail. Tell me when you're ready. Ellen, are you ready? Okay, so the other one is September 23rd, page 8, board communication. The featured speaker is Illinois Senate Christine Radonio. She's not the author of SB 16. I may have said that, but she is not, yeah. And then, I don't think she'll want that, to be on the record. But it was also in the beginning, after the LEND, it was the LEND legislators meeting. So it's the LEND meeting annually when they bring in the legislators, so, okay. Thank you.
Shannon?
Are you ready, Ellen? Uh-huh. Okay, she's fast. Okay, for September 23rd, page 7, we were talking about the stormwater resolution, stormwater discussion. And so the last sentence, I'd like to strike out noting it did not include Jackson. My point was we're focusing on Madison, and I didn't want to have other properties listed. So either list Madison or no properties, period.
Any others? Then shall we let those minutes stand as amended? Okay. Next on our agenda is the superintendent's consent agenda, items A through K. Anyone like any of those items removed? Okay, I'd like to ask a question. On item C, the approval of,
I think what you do is you remove it, we approve everything, and then we go back to get that.
all right,
Not to be too.
No, I appreciate your procedural precision. I just wanted to see if we could avoid removing it. But, all right, so I'd like to remove item C then.
If there's no further removals, I would move that we approve the superintendent's agenda, consent agenda, except item C. That would be A, B, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. For those keeping score.
Thank you, John. Margaret, you
A second?
second? So moved by John, seconded by Margaret. We do need a roll call vote, correct?
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Dr. Harrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ebner? Mrs. Stufen?
Yes.
Mr. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Bastido?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes, that's 7 ayes, no nays. The superintendent's consent agenda minus item C passes. Now, discussion of item C. So, if I can ask,
I move that we approve item C on the superintendent's consent agenda.
thank you. A second?
Don't we discuss it first?
No, you second and then you discuss. John's keeping me Robert's rules correct, and I appreciate it. So we need a second.
I second.
All right, moved by John, seconded by Margaret. Is there any discussion? Thank you, John, for keeping me in line with Robert's rules. I have a question on item C. We removed 2 PE courses from this list of approved courses to be voted on after we had some questions answered at our next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. If we did the same, so we could have get some question and answers about the one math course that's being proposed, would that be detrimental to delay it by one meeting and vote on it with the PE courses? Is there any downside to doing that?
Does the book get published or put online for students to start making choices?
I believe it's online, but I think it's both.
Right, I mean, because, we were on a little bit of a time crunch then to get things printed for the kids to start making choices of classes. Now, we could put in there pending final board approval.
Yes.
And still put it in the course offering booklet,
Okay.
so that students can know that it is there.
Okay. I mean, is that an acceptable alternative?
Mr. Purnell?
Yeah, I think we can do that. We could ask them to put it in the course book, but pending final board approval, then we would have, what I would suggest is that, a set of questions from the board be generated so that we can have the right people here at the next board meeting to get those questions answered, then have a decision of the Board of Education for approval of the course or not.
That would be great if we could do that. I think that's the most efficient way.
At the board meeting or at the curriculum committee meeting where the other courses are coming forward for discussion?
The curriculum committee meeting would actually be fine. Oh, the teaching.
I was going to say the
teaching.
learning and teaching committee meeting, so thank you. I appreciate that that's what we are now calling it.
Formerly known as.
So we could have both sets. We could have the PE course that I think board members had questions about, and then we could bring, and I'm assuming you're talking about the math course. That's
Yes.
And have the math course discussion there too. And then pending that, we would have to come back to the board for approval at the next meeting, or disapproval of those courses.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. All right, so it's item C minus that one math course. We can approve all those courses minus the math course, which will come at the same time as the 2 PE courses that we deferred at the first reading of those classes.
I'd like to amend my motion to approve C less the math course that we're talking about.
Thank you, John.
And I second.
All right, moved by John, seconded by Margaret. Do we need just a voice vote, Mrs. Walsh? Okay.
On the amended motion.
On the amended motion.
And then a roll call.
Amendment motion, and then
Then a roll call vote.
full motion.
Okay, so on John's amended motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Now, Mrs. Walsh, just so we're clear, we're doing the same thing on the.
Voting on the motion that he amended.
Okay, all right. Now, on John's amended motion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you for taking us through that quagmire. Appreciate that. All right. Next is the approval of the Senate Bill 16 resolution. So we chose to vote on that, is that correct? All in favor? Opposed?
You gotta move.
Sorry, you're right. I'm sorry. We need a motion. I'm all over myself here. I don't know.
I move that we approve the amended SB 16?
Yes.
16 resolution.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Moved by John, seconded by Emily. Now we can vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
I abstain.
Sure. Okay, that motion passes with one abstention. All right. What's that? Or with one vote of present, as the case may be. All right, thank you. Next on our agenda is upcoming meetings. I will note that they all occur in the rooms that we're presently in at 162 York. Thursday, October 30th is the Performance Management Committee meeting at 7 p.m. Wednesday, November 5th is the Learning and Teaching Committee meeting at 7 p.m. Tuesday, November 11th is our regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. Tuesday, November 18th is a Finance and Operations Committee meeting at 6:30 p.m. And Tuesday, November 25th at 7:30 p.m. is our next regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. With note, we have scheduled that meeting the last 2 years with the idea that it could be canceled if there's not enough material to fill it. I will note that that is a parent-teacher conference evening in the district. So, you know.
I won't, I can't come to that.
Okay, yeah. So we'll keep you informed about the requirement for that meeting, and then the board, please, particularly for that meeting with parent-teacher conferences going on, please let me know if you plan to be in attendance at that meeting, so we can make sure, if we hold the meeting, that we can have a quorum. Next is an action item on closed session items, which is student discipline.
I move that the Board of Education approve the administrative recommendation for the expulsion of York High School Student B for the remainder of the 2014-2015 school year.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, moved by Emily, seconded by John. All in favor? Or do we need a roll call vote? I'm sorry. Thank you. You weren't quick enough there, Mrs. Walsh.
Mrs. Bastido?
Yes.
Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
Mr. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen?
Yes.
Dr. Harrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ebner?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes, that's 7 ayes, no nays. That motion passes. Next is board communication. Anything? Chris?
I just wanted to cover, we, as you know, passed a parameters resolution, I think it was the last board meeting, to refinance some bonds, and that happened. On Wednesday, October 22nd, we refinanced $8.3 million worth of face value of bonds for a net present value savings of $812,000 to the district, which was net present value savings of 9.78%. And typically, just to remind everybody, the rule of thumb is anything over 3% is a good deal. So that worked out very well for us. Our all-in interest cost is 1.53%. So significant savings. We structured the issue the way that we discussed last meeting, where we are actually achieving much of the savings by repaying our debt early with the existing debt service. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed in the loop. I think, Chris, can we circulate that final pricing deck to the rest of the board, just so everybody's got a copy of it? But those particulars are in there. So we successfully did the first step, and then we're going to keep an eye on the refinancing opportunities. As you know, the next step would be January. So we will be, knock on wood, the rates had ticked down. They've come back off a little. They're volatile all over the place, but they're at or near the lows. And they're looking like they're going to hold in there for a bit for us too. So there's a significant savings opportunity in January. So we'll be back to the board later this year to get the parameters resolution in place so that we're ready to go in January.
Yeah, in the bigger picture, just to remind everybody of the bigger picture, this is our third refinancing opportunities as our bonds become callable. And the board is in the middle of an effort to refinance and restructure the debt of the school district. And if that all goes as planned, which we expect it to, over the next 10 years, we'll be able to reduce the property tax assessment by about $15 million over the next 10-year period. And that's the path we're on. And this was one more small step in achieving that. Anything else under board communications? John?
Had a really good brown bag at Emerson. There were some really engaged teachers there. They asked a lot of questions. I did my best to explain. I actually stayed on some of the topics that were actually prescribed, and I'm just wondering what I should do to provide feedback. Would you like a summary for the board improvement committee? And okay, I'll do that. I took some notes, and I'll get those. So.
Thank you. Anything else?
Just, I have one item. We may have to call a meeting for a residency hearing. We have had a residency hearing. I think it's going to go to the board. We have some timelines that we have to meet, and we're looking at next week as when we have to do this residency hearing. So we're really looking at the 4th or the 5th. The 5th, we could do it before the curriculum committee meeting that is scheduled that evening, or the 4th. I will have Ellen poll the board if this is a go, but I just want to give you a heads up that we probably will need to meet with a majority of board members in some fashion for residency review hearing next week.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Then we're at that point on our agenda where there is nothing left, so I declare this meeting adjourned.